Hello everyone and welcome back to the Stormblood Dungeon Lore series. In these videos I'll do my best to explain the lore behind each dungeon of Final Fantasy XIV and go over some things about them that you might not know. Today's dungeon is the Temple of the Fist. The Fist of Rhalgr was a monastic group of people that of course heavily revered Rhalgr, the Destroyer. After the peoples that fled the flooding of the 6th Umbral Calamity managed to reach salvation, many felt that the guiding star of Rhalgr brought them to safety, and decided to create the religious following as a result. The group sprouted during the 6th Astral Era, sometime after the city-state of Alamiga was founded, and steadily grew in power and influence within the ruling forces of the area over the decades. They built a grand temple high atop the mountains overlooking Rhalgr's Reach, and many saw themselves take the path of enlightenment that led them on a pilgrimage to the high peaks. The monks prospered for many years until Theodoric, King of Ruin, came to power, who found himself paranoid and fearful over the great influence that many advisors from the Fist had over what he considered his kingdom and his alone, and so had his armies and followers march upon the main temple. His men showed no mercy to any standing under the banner of the Fist, slaughtering those who followed the teachings and trying to ensure that no usurpers would rise to strike Theodoric from the throne. Though by chance some few of the line survived, the temple saw much less activity following the King of Ruin's actions. Additionally, after the Alamigan resistance toppled him from the throne, the Fist would face yet more oppression, as the following invasion from Garlemald saw all religions suppressed and outlawed. As a result, the temple stands as an eerie reminder of a much greater time, but remains uninhabited by the living to this day. In Rhalgr's Reach, the Warrior of Light is hailed by a man named Ortkin, who asks us for assistance regarding the temple. Apparently, a woman named Marjorie has been pleading to all who listen to be permitted entry into the place to study it for her research. Ortkin thought that if anyone could be able to enter and accompany her in the somewhat dangerous layout of the place, it should be the Warrior of Light themselves. He therefore sends us over to the entrance of the place within a secluded tunnel in Rhalgr's Reach, where we find Marjorie arguing with the guard, Hrotmar. Marjorie greets us and assumes that we too are interested in exploring the temple, and explains how her fascination grew after being taught by her mentor, Eric, and as a result she came to Rhalgr's Reach to explore the huge temple grounds of the Fist. Hrotmar, however, refuses to let her pass, once again due to the dangerous traps and obstacles set out for the monks who made the journey. Marjorie is undeterred, insisting that those objects are precisely the reason she wants to visit, and asks the Warrior of Light if they too are interested in visiting the temple, tempting us with the rumour of facing a monk of legend should we reach the innermost part of the temple. At that point, we introduce ourselves properly, and Marjorie is even more sure of our abilities, and asks to take her with us as we ourselves face the door leading into the once holy grounds of Rhalgr's followers. We arrive at the start of the path to the temple at Rhalgr's shoulder, inside a sheltered part of the structure. Marjorie stands at the ready and we proceed around the corner, exiting into the open temple grounds. A group of the inhabiting Curl attack the party here, as we see a clear view of the statue of Rhalgr, although a little higher up than the view from Rhalgr's Reach. Defeating the Curl, we find our path onward blocked by an odd mossy formation across the path, brought on by the waters nearby. As we wear it down, some of the attached mosslings break off and retaliate against the group. After we break the wall, Marjorie catches up, and wonders at the beauty of the place, and the party proceeds up the steps, ironically fighting the flying creatures known as monks, as well as some of the other spawn of the former. The moss seems to partially affect the grounds here too, with formations bursting if touched, spreading a sticky resin all across the path. As we see a second moss wall in the distance, a second Curl along with its pups attacks, after which we reach said wall and begin tackling the swarm of mosslings bursting forth once more. After this we proceed into the Tourmaline Pond, where the apparent leader of the Curls, the Sruti, awaits. As we engage the beast, Marjorie shouts to us of a legendary monk that once trained by fighting identical creatures. This Curl meanwhile uses the signature blaster attack seen by ones across the land, using a radial blaster to electrocute a large area around itself. Although the Sruti seems somewhat frail, when injured it calls out and its partner, a large Curl Smriti, appears, beginning to attack the party in kind. Soon after its appearance, both Curls Both curls leap around the pond and unleash their blasters simultaneously, coursing almost the entire arena with electricity. After we manage to take down one of the curl, the other enrages at losing its partner, and its instincts come into play, increasing the speed and ferocity of its attacks. After enduring this more powerful form for a time, the other partner falls and we can make our way to the Way of Enlightenment. We find ourselves much higher up above the reach, just above the highest point of the statue with a clear view of the fringes and the wall in the distance. At this height, the enemies in the area are those creatures that inhabit high mountains, such as larger birds and zoos. The path, meanwhile, is lined with moving traps that attempt to batter and push off those unlucky enough to be caught in them. We reach a corner in the path where the temple proper comes into view in the distance, and the outskirts of the structure begin appearing. We fight some of the Singer, animated stone statues, and proceed through the stone gate along another pathway. Yet more of the statues lining the path awaken and attack here, and after a second gate we finally reach the entrance to the temple. An area known as Harmony. Another challenge awaits us here in the form of Arbuda, a large training golem used by monks to test their speed before entering the temple. We engage it, where it uses its 4 swords to deftly cleave and challenge our positioning throughout the trial. Fourfold Shear rips at any in front of itself, after which it unleashes a cleave, either behind and in front of itself, or at its flanks to test our agility. A little after this, the Arbuda triggers its killer instinct, standing ready to deflect all attacks except those coming from behind. Obviously, monks would use this to determine the best weak points for their opponents in their training. When injured, the Arbuda unleashes a Hell Seal on the group, marking them with the sun and moon icon seen around the platform. The party must match their symbol to that of the same glowing one on the floor to avoid the retribution faced if incorrect. Finally, before defeating the golem, it uses Tapas to blast the group individually with light. When the Arbuda falls, Marjorie comments on our reasonable performance, but when the temple is in full use, monks receive grades based on their performance. From Mossling at the lowest, followed by Chapuli, Gazelle, Curl, Griffin, Two-Headed Curl, and finally the highest rank of the Destroyer himself. This would help determine the level of further training needed, and the level at which a monk could push himself. On our journey, meanwhile, Marjorie awaits outside the entrance as only disciples of war or magic can enter, and the group follows in to find an eerie atmosphere awaiting us. Along the way, we find the spirits of those who once made the journey into the temple, monks and other fighters alike. As we clear them out, the overarching fog seems to dissipate, and we make our way deeper still into the temple building. At the penultimate room, we find more spirits including some Curl, as well as the spiritual beings floating about and bursting with energy on contact. After the last spirits vanish, we finally reach the stairs to Guidance, where a legendary guardian of the Fist awaits us. Ivon Curlfist, a legendary monk said to have invented the Sphyri, and that was rumoured to train by fighting Curls in the mountains, stands before us as the final trial of the Fist. We see him collect the spirits of the 2 Curl we defeated before as his fists, preparing to strike us with his might. Ivon channels the power of the spirits around him to increase his mastery further, using Spirit Wave to spin rapidly and generate a tornado on the arena floor. Hurricane Kick swings in a wide arc ahead of him, after which he changes stance to perform a touch of slaughter, drastically injuring a party member and knocking them to their knees. Following this, the monk unleashes some of his true abilities, calling forth spirit curls to glide across the arena and damage those coming too close. Meanwhile, Ivon unleashes his silent roar, striking with both Sphyri ahead of him, reminiscent of the blaster technique used by the beast that represent his fists. When injured, Ivon leaps to the centre of the room, smashing the floor and declaring that his chakras will be unleashed. Much of the spiritual energy in the room coalesces and grows, slowly moving towards the monk as he charges his final blow. The party must absorb the energy nearby to prevent Ivon gaining too much strength, in turn empowering their own attacks for a short time. After the energy fully dissipates, he leaps above and his huge spiritual form begins smashing the platform with heavy blows, unleashing a final blast that heavily damages the group. Amazed at our strength, he continues his assault with yet more ferocity, unleashing once more his varied techniques, until finally we bring him low. His spirit staggers and vanishes, leaving the temple empty, but spirit-free once again. We reconvene with Marjorie outside the temple entrance, eager to hear of what happened inside the temple. She is surprised to hear of our clash with Curlfist, and goes into detail of his journey of fighting Curls, and how he eventually adapted his form and technique to match that of the mighty beasts, developing a yet unseen style of fighting. Awed by his still patient attitude to await a new challenge inside the temple, Marjorie declares that she too will become a monk, to the shock of Rotmar and the Warrior of Light. She vehemently wishes to meet Ivon Curlfist herself, and vows to improve her body and mind in order to do so. Starting with her mind, she is torn between reading more in the religion of the monks, or otherwise finding a local versed in the ways of the Fist. In any case, she thanks us for helping her realise her true calling, and believes that next time we meet she will look vastly different. Rotmar meanwhile thinks that as a monk she will be one of the strangest ones he will have met, but believes it interesting to think just how far she might go. And that's the end of the story and lore for the Temple of the Fist. A long-standing temple once thriving with the influence of the Destroyer, torn down by a tyrant afraid of its rise in power. Though the temple was flowing still with the spirits of its previous inhabitants, it now stands empty, but another soul stands filled with a determination to become a monk to explore its depths for her own. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Final Fantasy XIV videos, and I'll see you next time for the Drowned City of Scala.